Hi guys. Okay, so we're back with the 2021 Toyota Tacoma. This is the TRD off-road model, and we are going to do the front differential fluid swap today. I'm not exactly sure what the maintenance interval on that is. If you're not towing, it's probably not very often, but I want to upgrade to this AMSOIL severe gear fluid, and I also want to change out those hex plugs to a normal bolt size plug. But anyway, the fluid that you're going to want for this, you're going to need 3.2 pints, which comes out to about 1.6 quarts. On the back, I had to do, should have been 4.25 quarts, but I ended up using most of the 5th quart. There's probably maybe a third of it left. So if I had gotten 6 quarts, it would not be enough to do both of them. So I did end up fortunately getting a 7th quart, and that'll make enough for this. If you don't have the long bed and the double cab, then you need less fluid in the rear, so you may not need to have the 7th. But if you have the long bed and the double cab, definitely grab a 7th and save yourself some time. And when you do this, I am on a tiny bit of a slant downhill towards me here, because you know, I don't have a perfectly flat spot. But I would say if you can't get a perfectly flat spot, better to be facing downhill a tiny bit than uphill, because where the drain plug's at is on the side over here, and the fill plug too, and it's back in there. I'll show you in a bit. But the fill plug, the way that it's situated, if you're facing downhill, then it'll end up taking a little more fluid than it says. But if you're facing uphill, then it's going to end up taking a little less, which means your differential is going to be underfilled. So definitely downhill if you have to, but do your best to get it perfectly level. Let's see, the things I'm going to be using here. I got a drain pan here. I actually have 2 because I'm going to check out how the fluid is, so I want to pour it from one end to the other, see if there's anything down in there. Obviously some rags. I have some regular cloth rags and some paper ones, because gear oil, it stinks. So if I get it on any rags, I know I'm going to be throwing them away, so I'd rather use some paper towels as much as I can, so that I can throw those away and not my good rags. Rubber gloves is a good idea, and a drink, of course. The drain plugs here, I think these are the right ones. This is an M24 by 1.5. That appears to be what it is, and this is a much better replacement than the hex head, because once it's old, you may not be able to get that hex head all the way into that hole, and people say they strip out a lot. So I want to get rid of those, get these ones in there. These have got a nice strong magnet, and when you do this, I have some other ones there just in case it's the wrong size. Those are M22 by 1.5, but I do believe it's the M24. A big thing is those washers, the copper washers or these aluminum ones. You're going to need a crush washer, which is what those are. Those are a one-time use thing. So even if you're not replacing your plug, you're going to need to get some crush washers. You could try to use the old ones, but you're likely going to have a leak. There's little kits like this you can buy with random assortment, and they're really inexpensive. I can't recall exactly how much it was, but maybe a couple bucks. Let's see, the gear oil, it needs to be SAE 75W85, and it needs to be API GL5 certified. Okay, so this AMSOIL severe gear is great. You won't go wrong with that. Brake parts cleaner I have here for cleaning off the axle housing after I'm done, just so that I know if there's any grease there later, or I mean oil or dirt, you know, sticking on there like oily, I know it's leaking. On the sockets, You'll need a 12 millimeter if you have the factory bolts on your skid plate. They're a 12 millimeter. I changed mine out because I didn't really like the bolts that were in there, and I took mine to a shop, and of course they had to strip out one of them. So I got some stronger bolts in there with a little bit bigger head. Those ones aren't very deep, and those are a 13 millimeter, but you just go ahead and use the 12. Don't forget that I even said anything about that. Don't mind me. Just had to digress there. But on the bolts, or the drain plug and fill plug that are in there, it's a hex head 10 millimeter, I believe it is. And yeah, this is the way to go. You're not going to want to use an Allen wrench because it's probably going to be too tight in there for a little tiny thing like that, and you're probably going to end up breaking it. But I got an adapter on there so I can use my 1/2 inch. Probably going to use the breaker bar. Forgot to get that out, but I'll grab that. And then torque wrench. These, I'll have to check the exact torque on them. I believe it was 29 foot-pounds, but let me check and I'll give that to you in just a minute here. The only other thing is I need the 24 millimeter, or 20, sorry, not 24 millimeter, 22 millimeter. The bolt's 24 millimeter, but the head is 22 millimeter. So I need that for the drain plugs. So let me get my torque wrench. I'll get under here and pull that second skid plate. You can pull this front one, but you really don't need to. I mean, if you're a skinny guy like me, you can get underneath this. If you need to, pull this front skid plate too, just to give you a little more access. But it's right underneath the second one, so you definitely have to remove that, unless you want to try squeezing in over on the side here. And yeah, I don't recommend it. Okay, so I got the skid plate off. This is the second skid plate, and you're looking at the front over here and the back over here. There are 4 bolts, one there, one down in there, and one down in there, and one there. These ones in the front, you'll need either a deep set socket or a socket with an extension. And take these back ones out first, because this tab here kind of holds on top of the frame down there, and so if you take these, it'll still hang up there, whereas if you take the front ones off, it's going to try to bend. So take those 2 off, and then when you take the front ones off, when you take the second one off, make sure you hold the skid plate up before it comes out so it doesn't fall on you. And it's real simple. So I'm ready to go here. I just want to heat up my differential fluid so that it flows out better. So I'm gonna go drive for about 10 minutes, and definitely gonna do some 4x-in, because if I don't go into 4-wheel drive, that front differential is not gonna really be getting heated up. So time to have some fun. But I just got to be a little careful that I don't do anything crazy without that skid plate there. But I'm not going to do that much, just a little dirt driving. Okay guys, so this is going to be a hard place to take a video at. I'm underneath the side here behind the tire. And you got to be real careful here because the exhaust is right here, and it's really hot. So make sure you don't touch that. But you can get up in here to the fill plug right up inside here, and on these plugs, the fill plug and the drain plug, there's a reputation for them stripping out. Man, dang ratchet. There's a reputation for those stripping out, and I think the problem is that they're letting stuff get inside there, because you've got a good 3/8 inch depth on that, and if you get that thing all the way in there, you're not going to strip that out. So I think what's happening is they've got dirt or rust inside there, and so they're only getting it part way, and that's why it's stripping out. So what I recommend, I came up with a pretty good idea, I think. Stuff the end with some grease, and that should keep dirt and stuff from getting in there, and then when it comes time to getting it out, just grab a Q-tip and clean the grease out. You know, it might get dirty and look ugly on the outside, but at least you won't have to worry about it when you go to take the plug out. I'm going to change it out to one that's got a hex head or a bolt head, but you know, if you're not going to, that should be a good solution, I think. Sorry, I meant to say something else too. So on this, the very first thing you should do after heating this up, crack the fill plug open. You most definitely want to do the fill plug before the drain plug, because it's possible you could end up with the fill plug seized in there for some reason, and if it is, and you've already drained the fluid, there's no way to get fluid back into the differential. So you'll be in a big world of trouble there, because you won't be able to put fluid back in until you fix that. Better to find out that your fill plug won't come out and still have fluid in there while you figure out what you're going to do about it. So I broke that free, and I'm going to go ahead and break the bottom free. My recommendation on this is break the fill plug open, but then close it back to hand tight before you open the drain plug, because that way when you open the drain plug, it'll be sucking the air back in, which will keep the fluid from coming out as fast. And then once you have the drain plug out of there and your hand out of the way, then you pull the fill plug, and then the rest of the fluid will come gushing out. So hope that helps. Okay guys, so I got the plugs out. The drain plug is right here, and it is the perfect size, just like the one that I ordered right there. And the fill plug, unfortunately, it is not either of the sizes of the ones that I have. However, I replaced the fill and drain plugs in the rear differential, and the fill plug in the front differential is the exact same size as the fill and drain plugs in the rear differential. So what I'm going to do is I'll use this one for now, and I want to get a different one, because the other ones I had a much stronger magnet than this one. So I'm going to get a better one for this one, but for now I'll put this one in there, because this actually has the socket head instead of the Allen screw head like that. You can see here there's a bunch of metal shavings on it. It's pretty normal as long as you don't have anything real chunky. It's not a big deal. It's just, yeah, that's just little tiny metal shavings, so you don't really have to worry about that too much. But I do have to say, the fluid in here is a whole lot darker than what I took out of the rear differential. I do use four-wheel drive a decent amount, but I would say I'm at a little over 50,000 miles, and this definitely looks like it should have, like it's overdue to be changed. So I would recommend doing this before that. This to me seems like it should be a 30,000 mile maintenance item, but I don't believe it is. The only thing I saw for buying at 30,000 miles was the transfer case. So I did drain it into this oil pan and then drained it into there so that I could see if there's anything floating around in there, like any metal chunks. This way you can, you know, like you're panning for gold, kind of spread it around and see if there's anything. The only thing I have in there is a couple little specks of dirt, because it's kind of windy right now. So not the best time to do this, but you do what you got to do. On taking out the fill plug and the drain plug, the drain plug is harder. It has a higher torque, but I was actually able to do it with just the ratchet. I didn't need the breaker bar. I had to give it some pretty good beating on it, you know, but probably a rubber mallet would have made it easier. But it did come out with just the ratchet, and putting them back in, the torque on the fill plug is going to be 29 foot-pounds, and the drain plug is 48 foot-pounds. So I'm going to go ahead and put the drain plug in, and go ahead and fill it up with fluid. These bags are really easy to use. If you need to, you can use a pump. I'm not really sure how easy it's going to be to get up inside there. I may still need to use a pump, which if I do, I'm going to need to run to the hardware store and get a pump. So I'll let you know if I can get these bags up in there in just a minute. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys this. This is why I replaced these drain plugs with an aftermarket that's a stronger magnet, because you can see on the right here is the factory one, on the left there is the one I bought. This one also is the factory one, which was much weaker than the aftermarket one I bought for the rear. And I'll just show you. This is the fill plug, has no magnet, but if I stick it to this one, it kind of sticks. But if I stick it to this one, I can't get it off hardly. So that is going to take a lot more metal out of that fluid than this one is. And if I can get a stronger one for up in there on the fill plug, well, when the fluid's splashing around, some of that metal is going to come out on that one too. So out with the old and in with the new. Also, one more thing I probably mentioned, but I don't recall if I did. These washers, they're known as crush washers, particularly the aluminum ones. The copper ones, it would seem to me that you could use them more than once, but these are a one-time use item. So once you torque that down, if you loosen it back up, you need another crush washer. So this little kit here, not too expensive, and you got a whole bunch of them. So that way, if you need to get it back apart, you can, and you don't have to worry about it leaking. So here's the fluid with some light. It's pretty murky. That is not clean fluid. 50,000 miles, it definitely needs changed. Okay, so the drain plug's in, not too bad. The thing was I needed an extension to get past the housing there, because there's not a lot of clearance to get the head of the torque wrench in there. But when you do that and you have it this far out, make sure that you use a couple hands when you're torquing it. Use your one hand on the handle and the other hand support the head so that it doesn't twist, because if you just try turning the handle, I guarantee you'll strip the bolt. Hold underneath it, or put something solid underneath it that won't give, so that it supports that, and you'll be able to torque it. 48 foot-pounds, and it didn't seem like it was that difficult to get with a decent sized torque wrench. Getting the drain plug in there was probably the most difficult part, just because the magnet was so strong. It wanted to stick to the frame of the housing, not go into the hole. So I struggled with it a little bit and got it in there. So that thing is gonna seriously pull anything out of there that's floating around. Okay guys, so it's a little difficult taking video under here, but the differential is full. Can't get my light in the right spot, but the way that you know that it's full is when you get a steady trickle coming out of that fill plug there. The bags are amazing. You don't even have to get it up above the hole. You just stick the nozzle in there and then squeeze it like it's a juice bag, and it just squirts right in there. When you are squirting it in there, keep the nozzle at the top end of the hole so that the bottom end of the hole is open, so that the fluid can flow back out once it's full. And as soon as it starts flowing back out, stop right there. Obviously make sure you have a drain pan or something underneath, and these absorbent cloth pads are really nice too. But on the fill plug there, the torque on that one is going to be 29 foot-pounds. Again, use a new crush washer, and if you missed it, the drain plug is 48 foot-pounds. So after you're done and you have everything torqued down, the only thing left to do is to clean it up. I use brake parts cleaner. Just make sure you get all of the old residue of oil, grease, gear oil off of there, and any dirt, so that if it does leak, you'll know it, because there won't already be anything there. So if it's not clean, you know something happened. But it's not a too difficult process. Just getting into here is a little bit tight. Oops, sorry guys, I didn't mean to be covering the screen.
Getting in here is a little bit tight. If you need to, you can take off that front skid plate if you come in from the front, or maybe the little mud flap over here. Can't even get to it. Or if you need to, jack up underneath the control arm and take off the wheel if you need to. But when you fill the differential, make sure that you have it back down to a round level so that it takes the same amount of fluid. And so I'm done here. I'm going to go ahead and torque that fill plug and put the skid plate back on and call it a day. So I hope this went good for you guys.
Okay guys, so of course I had to throw in a little extra part here. I ended up, I'm not going to use the drain plug that was from the rear differential, because as you can see, it's pretty short there and it's actually recessed in there. So the flange surface is not, let's see if I can get the light over here. The flange surface, if you can see it up in there, give me a sec, I'm lost here, right back here. The flange surface, if you can see, is recessed a little bit, so the head would be sitting below the outer surface. So I was getting close to tight, but I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to get it back out if I went any tighter, so I pulled it back out and just barely had enough to grab onto it. If it was torqued, I don't think I would have been able to. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and put the original fill plug back in, and then I'll order one that's got a taller head so that I can put that in there, and something with a nice strong magnet too. So good times.